Thanks for joining us for the SBP Podcast, the voice of mobile film. You're listening to episode 57, and I'm your host, Susie Botello. We asked CK Goldiing to come to San Diego to share his film 61 Hugs with our film festival as a special speaker to include a Q&A session along with his film. Now, the thing is that 61 Hugs has been going viral, but not as a video in itself. It's basically a story about CK, who describes himself as an overthinker going out on the streets to meet a challenge head on. His challenge was to hug 61 strangers as he recorded it with his smartphone. Now, a lot of people who attended our film festival went on to share the video on social media, but not because they met CK in person, but because they wanted to share the experience of the film with everyone. So we asked CK on his last day before flying out of San Diego what his experience was like in our film festival. And of course, we took the conversation further into mobile filmmaking and what he does on a regular basis, which is something which may inspire you to share your stories and challenges using your smartphone camera. So let's go and let's talk to CK now. Hey everybody, welcome to the SBP Podcast, the voice of mobile film. I am here at the San Diego City Library with our VIP speaker from the International Mobile Film Festival. Today's Wednesday, right? Yes.
Today's Wednesday, the 30th of
what
April.
We call hump day, the middle day. Yeah,
same.
And CK came out from UK with his film 61 Hugs, and he presented that and had his first US screening of that. And we're here to talk with CK about, his film, which he shot with a Samsung S9? S6.
S6.
Yes.
Yeah, my 4-year-old baby.
Right. It's pretty much gone viral, and I'm going to go ahead and let CK speak now a little bit about who CK is and the film.
Thank you, Susie. This is my last day in SD, and I'm starting to feel a little bit teary because it's been an absolute joy the last 7 days. And I am now 7 hours away from my flight, so this is going to be my parting gift, or maybe your parting gift having me on. I enjoy it. I'm loving podcasting. This is the second one I've done while I'm here, and yeah, it's been quite a journey. And thank you for inviting me over to share the film with your wonderful audience and the International Mobile Film Festival community. And yeah, it was a joy.
It was very well received, too. Everyone was moved by it.
It really was well received. And, if I was to draw a distinction between US audiences and UK audiences, because I have been in the room on a handful of occasions when the film has been screened. Not many, definitely under 10. And if I was to draw a distinction between US audiences and UK audiences, I would say that the zealousness of your laughter was a little bit stronger. I mean, UK audiences laugh their little socks off during that film. And by the way, for anybody listening to this, it's not a comedy. It's not a comedy, but it certainly has some moments of joy and elation and humanity and surprises which just make you think wow and make your heart sing and make you want to laugh and make you want to embrace life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So because of, you and I were discussing was it you I was discussing why people laugh? It's like a sense of relief. It was maybe you and Aaron. I've got holiday head. I've got holiday head right now. I've got to say.
We've talked so much about so many different things. I'm sure you've had the same discussions with other people. Yeah.
We have discussed so much, but yeah, and it was just from start to finish. And I keep being surprised by how much humour people find in that short film. But I would say you guys over here, our US cousins, have found more humour than anybody anywhere else. And the manner in which you displayed that was hearty, to say the least, from start to finish.
Right.
It was a joy to be in that room.
And were the questions a little different from the audience during your Q&A?
No. Were the questions different to the ones I received in the UK? No, I generally find that the questions explore similar ideas, as in, at what point did the challenge, at what point did your nerves and your fears dissipate? We've not even discussed what the film's about. Should we just assume knowledge?
You're reading my mind.
Should we just assume?
We're so connected right now. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I totally forgot to tell you to ask you to do that. Yeah.
Sure. So 61 Hugs is an unscripted short docu-film stroke vlog diary style production. And by unscripted, I mean all of my content is fundamentally unscripted, as in it's not like a narrative piece with a script. I thrive on challenges and human endeavour and exploration, so I'll have an idea and I'll go out onto the streets and live it out. And this was the first project of this nature that was given to me by an outside source. Usually the ideas just come to me and I go, okay, I'm going to do that. But in this instance, I was challenged by an outside source to leave my house and ask the first 61 people I saw for a hug. And that whole experience was documented. It was self-filmed by me and my Samsung S6. And the entire process took me an hour from start to finish, but the documentary itself is 23 minutes. And yeah, so during Q&As, after people have watched this film, I'm often asked, because apparently, and this is apparently you can either agree or disagree with this on Susie. Apparently my nerves are very palpable. You can see them. I don't know. Because I just see my face and we see different things in people's faces. I don't know if you could see nerves as in the opening scenes when I'm sitting in my kitchen. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, there is a position that you're sitting in. You know, I'm not sure if it's nerves or it's just the thinking position. You know, the thinking man. You know, with his head down and his hand. You know, that kind of a thing, posture.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, no, the Q&A wasn't that different.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because, you know, they reacted a little different. We laughed more, apparently, or maybe at different things. I'm not sure.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say that's fair.
And obviously, the reason why I invited CK to come and present his film and do the Q&A at our film festival is because he shot his film with a phone, but also because we have rules on our film festival for competition. And, I will ask filmmakers to cut it short to fit within the guidelines, within the rules and criteria, whatever you want to call it. But I couldn't say that to CK because there are 61 hugs and he's documenting each one of those 61. And sometimes they come in groups, which it means like there's not 61 minutes, basically. Which is great, a minute per hug, like a minute per mile or something. But he came, and I really felt that it was going to be a very inspiring story for mobile filmmaking because everyone's got a phone in their pocket. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
On what?
On why this is such an important. I mean, a film like this is such a great example of what you can do with your phone. As a camera, as a filmmaker, video maker, vlogger?
Well, here's the thing. I think it's more critical if you create the kind of content I do, which isn't narrative-led. As in, mine's very spontaneous. I thrive on capturing spontaneous interactions with people and capturing spontaneous situations. Now, that is perfectly aligned. I don't think, if you make narrative pieces, I don't think a mobile phone is critical to do that. But if you do pieces which are based on spontaneity in the universe and just, something amazing is happening here, mobile phones are almost a necessity.
Yeah.
Because it's there. It's in your pocket. It's just there.
And people aren't afraid of it.
Correct. That was going to be my exact point, is people just don't care. And I've often thought, it'd be easy for me to sit here and say, every time I do these challenges, they work out so well because I'm CK and I'm this guy who people find, easy to be in his presence and all that business. And all that stuff might be true. But to be brutally honest, I think a healthy proportion of the reason that these things are often successful is because people just don't feel intimidated by a phone because everybody's used to one. in contrast, perhaps, to if I was to just suddenly whip out a DSLR or a Red or whatever, and suddenly people feel performance mode. Right?
It's true. It's like a big deal. Big camera, big deal.
Because, and this is what I always say. It's like I don't know what would happen if I produce my things on a bigger scale thing, but it's just so unassuming, a mobile phone. And like I said, everybody has one. Everybody knows what a mobile phone looks like. You pull out a DSLR or something bigger. Like the first thing they're wondering is, what the hell is that? The first thing. Yeah, right. Because for the most part, not everybody has one. Yeah. So I just think when you produce my kind of content, and I do know I'm in something of a minority that isn't producing narrative pieces, etc. I just think it's an absolute given and an absolute necessity.
Yeah, and you never know. That's the spontaneity of the moments. Yeah. Where you're going about through life. Like we all do, but we always have the phone with us, and something comes up. I mean, we see it on the news all the time. You know what I'm saying? With just things that happen, events that happen, but there's also the inner self that has a perspective. People can walk by. For example, there was a dog on the boardwalk yesterday, right? And everybody's just walking by the dog, but that dog called out to you somehow. So you have to stop. And then when you asked the guy if you could record the dog, he was okay with it.
Absolutely. I mean, that is on the mild end of the scale of what I capture with my phone. On the complete opposite end of the scale, however, is what happened the day after I was here. The next day after I landed, and there's no way this could have been possible if I wasn't so in tune to just pulling out my phone and just cracking on. It's just like an automatic, it's just like a reflex to me now. And I was at the bus stop, waiting for the bus to take me down to Old Town, and a guy came over and he said, "Have you been waiting long?" And I said, "No, 2 minutes. There's one due in 5 minutes." And then suddenly he said, "What's your problem?" But he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to a guy who just drove past him in his pickup, who apparently was staring at him. And the guy that was at the bus stop said, "I'm so sick of people in this state." San Diego's a state, right? Is it?
City.
Maybe? Okay. I get it all the time. I'm just so sick of people staring at me, and it's happening more since my hair's grown long, which is just a random thing to drop on someone you don't know. But I'm thinking, okay. Was he really staring at you, buddy? And he said, "Yes, he was staring at me, and I just hate it. It's one of my least favourite things in the world." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that." Then the conversation's carried on. I said, I'm always trying to diffuse the situation. So I just said, "By the way, great shirt, buddy," because he had this like check shirt. It's quite cool. And he went, "Oh, this came from the trash." What, pardon? Anyway, so as the conversation progressed, we got on the bus and we just started having a conversation because he thinks he's got a lot of conspiracy theories about the US and certain things. He is from the US, by the way. Yeah. Born and bred in America. And as the conversation progressed, we got off the bus at the same place by complete coincidence. And I asked him why he's no longer serving for the military, which he was doing, and he was almost a SEAL, as he was telling me. And all of a sudden, he just told me, "Look, there's certain things in my background that have happened, and one of the things that happened is that when he was 11, I don't even know how deep you want to go into this. When he was 11, Susie, he killed a boy that was 13. Oh. And he was being bullied by this boy. And so this is the story he gave me. I can only relay that, whether or not I can only relay what he was given to me. Yeah. At 11, he was bullied by a boy that was 13, and it got to the point when he couldn't take it anymore, because the guy's called Matthew, by the way. He's totally happy with that. He was called Matthew, and he said, "I just had a lot of garbage in my life. I had a really difficult background. This kid had been bullying me forever and for ages, and kind of it just reached a point when he just came at me, and I just kind of smashed his head against the wall." And he's telling me all this, and he's saying that the judge said to me, "Look, I know what's happened in your background because I've got the proof. Your people have told me. I've done my research. You have two choices. You can either go to prison, because there's no dispute over if you kill this. You can either go to prison or you can serve for the US." This is just going off a bizarre tangent, but what I'm saying to you, Susie, is that the minute we started talking, and I said, this was even before he told me about his past, I said, "Look, I'm finding our talk really interesting. Do you mind if I record this?" And he's like, "Please do. Email me when you're finished as well." And he's like, wow. and he's just telling me all this stuff. And at random moments, he's just turning to the camera and saying, "I really like this guy." He's just looking at me, saying, "I really like this guy. I don't know who you are, but I like this guy." And people do that all the time. So he's just telling me all this stuff. I've got my camera, and I can't believe I've got this kind of stuff on my phone. I'm like, I need to get back to the UK and edit this. But imagine if you were a filmmaker who doesn't even consider the power of his phone. You'd be thinking, "Oh, I'd love to capture this guy. I wish I had my DSLR." And hang on a minute, you have. It's in your pocket, dude. or
Exactly.
it's Bud or whatever.
Or even if you go on the mentality that I want to make a documentary about something like this, so I need to interview people with this. Well, you may be standing next to someone on a bus station that has the story already. And, something that happens, I don't know if you know this or not, but something that happens in documentaries, I'm sure some of our listeners can relate to this. A documentary starts out with a premise, in a way, and then in the middle of it or at some point as they start documenting things, the story changes. Mm-hmm. And a good documentary filmmaker will allow that to happen. He won't
be prescriptive.
Or she, stick to their guns on it. They'll go with that side story. And, we aimed to do a documentary on this, but then this happened and we found out about this and we started following that trail and it turned into something better. So another story that was more potent that, for people to listen to. So you want to give a filmmaker some advice on doing this kind of filmmaking, right? Basically, they would have to have some confidence to be able to because filmmakers, for the most part, they go somewhere, it's all set up, they've got their location, they've got their script, and everything is set up. They don't just do these things spontaneously. I mean, they may capture some things, some may be more willing, but to do a story, where they're documenting spontaneous moments like this, what would your advice be to them to help them get to the level where you are, where they can just feel comfortable just pulling out, hey, do you mind if I record this, especially with something like what you just shared?
The one word that came to me as you were saying all of that, it was a simple 5-letter word, and it's the only word I'm going to share. It's the word I'm going to share with you now because it was screaming loud, and it was trust. And when I say trust, I don't even necessarily mean trust whoever you're talking to. I mean just trusting the universe. Now, that might sound like an odd thing to say, but if we take the example of 61 Hugs, for example, if we just start with the opening prep, because the thing with 61 Hugs is, as I progressed through that process, the universe brought me these incredibly unlikely situations.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there would be no way I could have foreseen any of that happening. Now, although I couldn't have foreseen any of those individual things happening, I foresaw that something I didn't anticipate would happen. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I always trust the system, as in, okay, so CK, you've got this idea that you're going to leave your house and you're going to ask the first 61 people for a hug. Now, I didn't think for a second that it was going to be as simple as, okay, well, they're either going to say yes or no. I knew something was going to happen because I just know that that's just my way. Something always does, right? So as long as I trust that something unexpected is going to happen, I don't know what it is, but that's part of the joy, right? Finding out. But I have an unflinching belief. Anytime I set out on one of my challenges, something remarkable is going to happen. My job is to go and find out what that is and be ready for it.
Recognize it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think as long as you have that expectation, then the universe will be like, oh, God, so we need to give him something because he's expecting. I know that sounds a little bit too. Some people listening to that thinking that's just weird, but there's going to be some people listening to me saying, yeah, well, that's called expectation, that's called attraction, that's called vibration, call it what you want. Could be all of them. But every time I've done it, that exact same thing has happened. And I came here with my phone and just this little crappy Canon thing, because I knew that something was going to happen while I was here, I 100% got on a plane here thinking, okay, I've got 2 days of the festival and I've got 5 days to fill. Right. Now, you bet your ass that something remarkable is going to happen in those 5 days, but I had no idea. And because I got on a plane and imagined I was going to speak to someone that killed someone when I was 11.
Right.
Exactly. No, but I 100% knew that something was going to happen as long as I was ready for it. And I think that's the essence of documentary making, isn't it? As you said, you've got your premise. Okay, so I'm going to make a holiday vlog, but it's not going to be me surfing, I can tell you that. And it turned out it was this guy and it was the people at the hostel. I've told you this situation earlier on about a guy just coming up to me randomly at the hostel I've never seen before and saying, can I have a hug? I've seen your film. I'm like, well, how the hell did that happen then? Because I've never seen you in my life. It was, and
that's why I said it was a moving film, because it moves people to do something. It has like a call of action that touches them.
And this guy said, because this is the thing, this speaks to exactly what I was saying. I was recording on my phone at the time, because I was speaking to these group of people, and this guy just came out of left field. And he just came out to me and said, can I have a hug? And I've said this to you before, like if nowadays, if somebody comes up to me and says, can I have a hug? I know there's a high probability they've seen my film. This is me in the UK whenever somebody says that. Yeah. But there's no reason anyone should be coming up to me in the US and saying that because I'm a nobody here. As for the most part, I'm in the UK, but there's no reason anybody should be coming up to me in the US and saying that. None whatsoever.
It's true.
So when he said that, I just assumed somehow there was a connection, and it turned out that a guy I was speaking to 6 hours earlier who said he was going to watch it, he's best friends with him and they watched it together. Now, the thing is, this guy then said to me, I just wish I watched this film when I was a teenager. And I said, what do you mean? And he went, well, because I'm gay. I came out when I was 13. And that moment when those two kids came up to you on the bikes and they were so open and responsive and receptive to it, and then the kids later on who said, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. I don't recognize those kids from my teens, but I wish they were there, because that kind of humanity and that kind of liberal thinking, they're willing to just hug a random dude on the street. I can guarantee, CK, when I was 13, that wouldn't have happened. Now, possibly, but I just wish I'd have seen this film when I was younger, because it would have probably just made me feel... It would have made me feel a certain warmth to the universe that I didn't have, because I was scared of coming out. I was scared of being gay. It's like, all this is on my... I still have to go home and edit all this.
Awesome.
I have to go home and edit all this.
I mean, not awesome that these things happen to people, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's awesome that they're willing to share that with you in front of a camera that is a phone.
Yeah.
You know, and for the filmmakers, the mobile filmmakers, they say, you know, to actors, when they go to actors with the phone, you know, that especially children that are acting, they don't have you know, it just makes them feel more comfortable and more intimate with the character and the story and things like that, with the space.
I also think, I agree. I also think now what I'm seeing, I think everybody fundamentally wants to tell their story. And when I say, I mean everybody, I don't mean filmmakers. I mean just the dude who told me he came out at 13, who has no interest in filmmaking, but he still wants to tell his truth, right? Same with the 11-year-old who had, you know, he's now a grown man, but he clearly wanted to say his piece. And I think everybody wants to say their piece, and they just happen that it's almost like it's
therapeutic. It is.
I think so.
In documentary, when you're documentary filmmakers, right? When they speak with victims, you know, to share a story, and they're talking to the victims or even the perpetrator or whatever it could be, right? They know, you know, like let's say they put out a call. We want to meet people who've been raped, for example. I know. People who've been raped. Yeah. And they say, you know, talk to us or come over here. We're going to interview everybody one day or whatever, however they decide to do that. They get a lot of people to come, which is really weird, you know, because you would think it would be hard to find people who want to do that, you know, to go and do that. And they break down. Some people think it's okay. They break down. They express themselves. They cry because they're letting something out to somebody who's listening to them. As soon as you put it, and it doesn't matter if it's a phone or a regular camera, but the fact that you're recording, you're interested. You wouldn't push that button to hit record if you're not interested. You want to make sure, with other cameras, you want to make sure the microphone is on, you know, things like that. So they're getting that kind of attention. And they may not feel like their story mattered up until that moment before. It's very therapeutic. And then to actually tell it. Not like, I think we did this in our last podcast where I was telling you a little bit about how people talk. And once they talk about whatever is really deep inside them, they feel like they're able to release it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so I think that's probably part of what's happening. You're a trusting person. They trust you. They trust that device because it's so familiar to them, and they're willing to just go ahead and spill their guts out, basically. And they walk away probably feeling pretty good compared to how they felt before.
Perhaps,
even if you don't use it.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what tips would you say to somebody, let's say they've got their stories out there, would you advise people to put it out in pieces or to just create one full edited piece, or what is the best way for this kind of a format?
What do you mean specifically? Do you mean like my unscripted, spontaneous content, or do you mean just generally making content on your phone? Like,
Generally, like, should they just accumulate a series of moments in recordings like that and then edit it into one piece, or would you advise maybe that they do a series or a channel with a specific bits? Or?
I wholeheartedly think that's down to personal preference.
Yeah.
I know that might seem like something of a cop-out, but I think that's a personal preference in so much as how they wish to distribute it, whether it's going to be a series of one-offs, whether it's going to be like a series with a similar theme. That's
what would your preference be?
I don't have one. That's why, and you'll notice that if you go onto my YouTube channel, there is no preference. Like there's a kind of ongoing series called Something About Strangers, which I think there's like 17 episodes now, which documents my random encounters with people. I mean, we're in a library right now, and one of the most popular ones was when I was in a library in London, and I started a drunk guy just walked in and he started singing Frank Sinatra "My Way" at the top of his voice. Yeah. You just gave a knowing look there. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen it.
You have seen it?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I didn't know that.
You're a celebrity with me.
I didn't know. Thanks. I didn't know that. But he comes in and, once again, I just whipped out my phone and found out his story. And so that was one episode of Something About Strangers. Then there's another one where I was in a bar and two guys said, I'd like to give you 50K because we like we like something about your energy. We'd like to sponsor you. That was weird. I mean, that didn't manifest. They didn't give me the money.
That's incredible.
That's an episode you've not seen, clearly.
Yeah.
CK offered 50K in bar if anybody's bored. Go onto my YouTube channel. But yeah, so they are a series because I started to see correlations where, it'd be nice to have a little series of this. But in terms of, it doesn't make any difference to my subscriber numbers or viewers. It's just something for me to catalogue things and have everything neatly in one place. Then
then you don't know which one of those is the one that's really going to grab people and have it go viral, right?
You never know. I mean, incidentally, in the interest of full disclosure, this is one of my favourite stories about 61 Hugs. You know this. 61 Hugs was never, ever meant to be a short film or a documentary. It was only ever meant to be another vlog, more specifically, another episode within that Something About Strangers series. It was only ever going to be that. And I edited it in the same way it is now. I edited it like that, even though looking back, I should have known it was a film because it looks like one. Right?
Well, it was. You were telling your story about how,
So I edited it in the way it is now. I showed it to a friend, and he said, the first person I showed it to was my friend Neil, and I owe him a lot. And I said this at the festival. He's one of the main reasons I was at the festival. Bring him next year. I think so. I showed it to my friend Neil, and he said, CK, you do know you've made a short film, don't you? And I said, what do you mean? And he went, this is unlike anything you've ever made. It's unlike, and he, we all know that. We all know you can tell a story that's engaging and interesting. That's just what you do. But this is unlike anything you've ever done, and this isn't just a random YouTube video that you always do. And that's how I characterize myself. He wasn't being disparaging. I think I just make random YouTube videos, and he's like, this is not categorically a random CK video. You've made a short film. Moreover, you need to market it as such, because if you market this as another YouTube video, nobody cares. You suddenly call this a short film, and suddenly you've got an audience. Oh, who's this kid making short films? and when he said it like that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then I looked at it and I went, you have actually edited it like a short film. I just thought it was a vlog that looked a bit fancier than my other ones. I just thought it was a vlog that looked fancier than the other ones. That's it. Yeah. Then he said that, actually, it does look a bit filmic, actually. And then I thought, okay, I trust Neil. I trust him. For him to say that to me, because he's very good at marketing. He works in the music industry, so he's very good. He gets it. I thought, okay, fine. So then I started sending it out to press as a debut film by CK Goldiing. I do PR for my day job, right? That's what I do. So I kind of know.
Well, our audience doesn't, maybe.
Excuse me, sorry guys. So filmmaking doesn't earn me a bean, okay? Doesn't earn me a crust. So I have a content and marketing agency. It's just me, and I have clients whose profile, it's my job to elevate their profile within their business arena or the wider media scape as well. And so So to be able to do that, you have to know how to cultivate a story around someone. And when I say cultivate, so I don't mean make things up, because most people's biggest weakness is understanding what makes them interesting. And that's most people's biggest weakness. So I'll have a consultation with a client, for example, could be an entrepreneur, and they'll not know what's interesting about them. We'll have a full day consultation. I'll be like, that is the most interesting thing I've ever heard on a human level, right? So then we'll use that as their gateway in the press. So this guy's done this gal has done this. And then that serves as a gateway for people to discover their business. I always say to people, nobody cares about your business. People care about human stories. It's just, anyway, so I've always been good at cultivating a story or knowing what to lead with. So I knew that, well, if I just led with CK Goldiing makes debut short film, who's done these crazy things in the past, it's just probably going to develop traction. Yeah. So I marketed it as a short film, and here I am 7 months later in San Diego with my first ever trip here, but more critically, it's a US premiere. There's no way, if you'd have said to me like 7 months ago that you're going to go to San Diego in 7 months and you're going to screen it to a room of humans and they're going to love it. It's like several of them are going to cry. They're going to come up to you afterwards and say, I cried. One of them's going to say, CK, I want to cast you in stuff. If someone, big love to Dave Peterson, by the way. Steve Peterson. Steve Peterson. Sorry, forgive me. Steve Peterson, who came over and said that, who also shared it on his Facebook page. I'd have just said, nah, get out. As you guys would say, get out of here.
Get out of
here. Yes, I've forgotten what the question was.
Well, it wasn't really so much a question. It was basically like how to take something like that and how you make it go viral. Basically, I guess. Okay.
Well, I've maybe alluded to a part of it in so much as figure out what about this is unique and kind of lead with that. Package it, and I say package it like there was very little the only packaging I did was first of all call it a short film, not a vlog. I don't want anybody to be thinking I've done anything spectacular, because really I haven't. All I've done is decide I'm not going to call it a vlog. I'm going to call it a short film. And then when I'm reaching out to, I did something called an inside out approach. My usual way when I create something is to kind of go for the big national press and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's my usual approach. And I call that the outside in. So my home city will discover it after it's been a national thing. But for some reason, my gut was saying do this inside out. So make everybody in Sheffield, which for your listeners is my home city, make everybody in Sheffield sick of it, so that once you start reaching out regionally and nationally, it's got traction. I don't know why I decided to do it that way,
well,
but
that makes a lot of sense.
It just felt right. Yeah. And I genuinely have no idea why it felt right, but that's the nature of your gut and the instinct.
I can tell you my idea why I think that's right, because generally on the outside, they look to see where's the traction? What's in the inside? Yeah. Why would I touch that? Right?
Yeah.
If it's just an empty shell.
Sure.
If there's content in the inside of it.
Yeah.
Like a jelly donut.
Sure. So you mean if they see traction from Sheffield and everybody talking about it, once you reach out, they'll kind of see that wave, and it's
and they would go online and put the hashtag tag in there and see that there's content there, that there's people, there's something there, and then they'll follow that lead, which is what journalists do.
So true, and that's exactly what I did. And then once I started accumulating local press in full, my local newspaper, which is the biggest newspaper in my city, did a full. I remember reaching out to them expecting, they might put something on their website. That'll be fine. I'd love that. Turned out they did a full page in print and online. So there's awesome. A full page, not a section. I thought, wow, Jesus, that's weird. To be fair, the journalist, God love you, Sam Jackson. She did say she loved it. Aww. But even after saying that, I thought she was just going to put it on the website.
That's cool.
The minute I started accumulating the local press, I knew that gave me more influence once I was reaching out, because at least I could say, as featured in Sheffield Star, as featured on BBC Radio Sheffield. They got me on the breakfast show. Very early on, I was getting some really bizarre, significant placements. But that was maybe testament to me focusing on the inside out approach. Okay, let's make everybody in Sheffield sick of it now, which they might be getting then. Actually, but here I am on the outside in San Diego, right? And so that would be my advice to people. Just kind of focus on making it move people as close to you as possible. Focus. Don't set your sights too wide. Set your sights local. The person next door, and then reach out to your local press, and then use that traction to reach further out like a ripple effect. But that is nothing, and all of that is great, but that is nothing, and this is the thing I want to spend most time talking about, Susie, because you and I have discussed this. That is nothing if you're going to get in your own way, and this is where artists often come unstuck. And this is something that I think is so important, and I'm seeing it with greater frequency now, is that 3 months before I released the film, I watched a film called The Founder, which is Michael Keaton documenting the genesis of McDonald's.
I watched that because you told me to. Basically, you said, "Have you seen that?"
Yes.
In one of our emails,
before
Skype calls
yes.
actually, and I said no, I haven't, but it's on my list, on my Netflix list.
It was on it anyway.
And so I finally, that was the little push I needed. It's like, okay, well, CK said to watch it, so I should watch it, and I did. I'm
delighted about that, and I'm delighted about that. And there's the reason I mention that. There's one scene. So the founder is telling the story of how McDonald's became to be the global behemoth that it is today. And it started off with one guy called Ray Kroc, who was a salesman who was having very little success selling milkshake machines from burger bar to burger bar. He was just really struggling. Then he came across these two brothers called the McDonald's brothers, who had this one little burger place, that's all they had. Yeah. And he was just blown away by it, and he could see how this could be replicated and this could go global. So he kind of, via underhand tactics, took the brand from under those two and just made it the beast that it is now. However, there's one scene before he met the brothers when he's kind of really struggling to sell milkshake machines. He's in his motel room after a terrible day of no sales, and he's playing a self-help, personal development, self-help vinyl about, how you have to be persistent, how you have to be tenacious. There's one line that really gave me chills, and that was a critical turning point for me. There's one line in that personal development vinyl when it says, "There is no greater cliche on this earth than wasted talent. If you think talent is enough to take you over the edge to success, you're very much mistaken. There is no greater cliche than undiscovered talent. The only thing that's going to get you over the edge is tenacity and actually pushing forward," right? And I heard that and I was like, oh God, because I have challenges like all creators, and I feel I'm not at the place I wish to be, right? Yeah. I have the same challenges as everybody else. Then I heard that scene and I was like, have you done enough though to get there? And then I realized that often, and this is most creators will relate to this, where often feel, oh, I've been talking about this too much now. I've been promoting this. I've been tweeting about this too much. It's maybe time to stop. And I made a commitment 2 months before 61 Hugs came out that I was going to do everything I could conceivably do to give it as much oxygen and make it be accessible to as many people as humanly possible.
It's a salesperson's technique, and the odds for every no. Or for every yes, there are 50 no's, yes. Basically. And you kind of go with a ratio like that. So that keeps you going. Well, I've only got 25 no's. I've got 25 more to go. I can't let this, get down. It doesn't work specifically like that, but pretty much like that.
Yeah.
And the consistency, that's why they get pushy until you say, I used to be in sales, and I had someone say, selling an extended warranty, and they finally said, well, you know what, I'm not going to get this because I believe in it. I'm only going to get that I can't believe I'm telling you this on the podcast probably. I'm only going to get this to get you to shut up.
What, this warranty?
This warranty, yeah.
Okay.
And it was on something they purchased when I did sales. And I was pushing for this, you got to extend your warranty. You really should,
Oh,
and blah, 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 and I wouldn't stop.
Why were you hesitant about telling me that?
Because it's like, the guy basically say, I'm just going to get it to get you to shut up because, I
think
just
that's reasonable.
Going on.
We all know you enjoy your talk. I think that's very you. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised you only had that once, to be honest.
He bought it and he never returned it either.
Sure. Go Susie. High five. I mean,
okay.
I'm surprised you only had that once, frankly. We know you love to talk, as do I. Yeah. But... yeah, it really, really moved me, that scene when he said there's no greater cliche than wasted talent. And I just thought to myself, are you really going to do what you've done every time before? I mean, a lot of my projects before 61 Hugs have done reasonably well. I've been featured in Red Bull, BBC, Huffington Post. So, press placements isn't new to me, but an international audience very much is, right? So I thought... and it's not for ego purposes. It's for two reasons that I was committed to giving it as much oxygen as possible. One, because I knew it would give people a sense of joy, right? It would just move people in a way that would be nice to share on the first. But equally, as a creator, I know that there's nothing to be lost from growing my profile in inverted commas, and that's not going to happen if I'm feeling icky about sharing. I don't know if you want me to share the anecdote about my friend recently sending me that WhatsApp message that you and I spoke about yesterday, but I think CK, it's time to move on. That one.
I don't know. It's up to you.
I think it's really important because it's the kind of thing that I would want to hear.
Yeah,
like 7 months ago.
Go.
Because I know it applies to so many creators. And my best friend, by the way, people will find it surprising that a best friend said this to me, but it came from a place of heart. In his defense, he sent me a WhatsApp message maybe 8 days ago saying, CK, by the way, out of interest, when are you going to stop flogging the 61 Hugs horse and move on to the next thing? And I was like, and I had two thoughts when he said that. The first one was, okay, fine, I appreciate that. And I know that not only you think that, I'm acutely aware that other people that follow me online, Instagram, Twitter, will be thinking similar things. Not all of them, but some. It makes sense, right? But equally, I also thought, I actually feel that a little bit as well. As an artist, I think it's natural, but I'm actually quite proud that I'm only starting to feel that now, 7 months in, because I'd have probably felt it maybe a month in once upon a time. But my thing, and this is what I said to my friend, is, look, bud, this is the thing. There's 8 billion people on planet Earth, right? If we were to look at the number of people that know about 61 Hugs right now, it'd be 0.0000000 recurring 2% of the global population. And I owe it to that. I owe it to the commitment I made myself 2 months before. I owe it to the people who feel something every time they watch it. I owe it to the people that laugh, that cry, that tell their friends. I owe it to myself. And I owe it to all these groups to just keep on going. And I'm fine. And I respect that people are thinking, oh, God, really? But I can't really let that get in my way, because I know a lot of my friends who are creators, who are artists, do let it get in their way. And it's a shame, because I know that they feel like they're not developing traction, but that's why, because they're getting in their own way. And my only hope to all the artists, because bear in mind, Susie, like, I'm a pro photographer, so I've photographed God knows how many singer-songwriters in my time, like, for their official promotional imagery, right? Yeah. And I've become friends with so many of them, and it hurts my heart when I know of some of the talent that is remarkable that will never get seen, because I know that I can just tell that they're probably never going to do that thing where they get out of their own way enough for it to happen. I mean, there's 3 artists in my head right now that I can see them very clearly. I'm not going to say who they are, but I know who they are. And I know that they're remarkable. They're remarkable talents, but there's something in them that feels icky and uncomfortable with the pushing your art stuff.
Yeah.
Making it, they love. Pushing it and promoting it and sharing it, they really struggle. As do I, still, by the way.
And most people are raised to not be pushy. It's just impolite to be pushy. You know, I want that candy. Can I please have that candy? You know, that kind of a thing. But also, I can, with someone who knows you, right? Or someone who already knows about 61 Hugs, it's like, oh, there's 61 Hugs again. But for all the people around them, all the other billions of people, right? That one time that you did it again is their first time encountering it. And that's why you got to keep it going.
And that is exactly the rationale I have. And I can't stress enough how much sympathy and respect I have for what he said, because there's a certain amount of truth in it. And I have the benefit of, I have 3 fully formed ideas in my head right now that I could do tomorrow. Like, I was in a luxurious position throughout this whole 61 Hugs journey that I've never had to be scrambling around for the follow-up. Oh my God, wow, suddenly all these people love this. What the hell next? I've known what the next thing is for months. I knew what the next thing was before I even put 61 Hugs out, is because, as I said, I have 3 fully formed ideas in my head at any given time, which is a blessing and a curse, because it's really noisy in my head.
3 is the good number.
Really noisy. 3 is the magic number.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I have the very next one is going to be called The Train, which is set on the London Underground. And that will probably be filmed in June, maybe. May or June.
Sounded like June.
yeah, May or June. And that will come out hopefully around September time. But it's so relaxing. It takes the pressure off knowing that it's good to go. And it is. But,
that is awesome. That's almost like I'm cooking chicken and I've got the biscuits in the oven.
I love it. I love a good biscuit analogy.
Right?
And the tea in the kettle. This is me. I'm all about the tea. So if any artist or creator takes anything away from our chat, I just want it to be that I haven't done anything spectacular with 61 Hugs other than getting out of my own way. Right? That's literally all I've done in order to generate this kind of awareness and traction. All I've done is everything I've done before, but this time I've added the business of getting out of my own way and not feeling icky. And by the way, I do still feel icky. So like 7 months and I'm still posting and I do feel icky. But I know that there's a bigger picture beyond my ickiness. And if you just cling on to that, you'll be fine.
Social media makes you do that, though, because things go away so fast.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, even in the news today, right? There's an event that happens today. 3 days from now, it's forgotten. It's on to the next one. So you have to keep bringing it back if you want it to have traction. You know, somebody who saw maybe one thing. Now, I can't say my case was that because you reached out to me. But if I would have seen the 61 Hugs Twitter thing, right? I would have had to see it probably at least 7 times come up in my feed before I would say, now what's up with that? You know?
Absolutely right.
And I would like to think that I'm not that much stranger than other people, you know, when it comes to that. When you see something, and it doesn't have to be in the same day. I mean, that's actually overkill where you mute somebody. But to have it come up, you know, a number of times throughout a week or something, you're going, I want to know what that is. You know, I'm curious about it. That's why the content, you know, what you do with your content, you don't just put the text out there. You don't just put a link there.
What do I do?
You actually do screen captures of your reviews and things like that.
Oh,
and so that's the eye candy part, which makes people stop to check that out. You know, which I think is pretty smart.
You're talking about what I would characterize as garnish now. I call that garnish. And,
garnish.
You know, it's, like the marketing bits which make stuff at least look. There's nothing about what I've done that I want to keep a secret. If anybody's listening to this now and thinks, I'd like to reach out to CK and ask him what I can do about this film, if you don't reach out to me, I'll be very annoyed, right? Because I want to share this with everybody. And I've not done anything spectacular. Or you know, really, I was very aware that online, at least make it look like it has, how can I put this? At least make it look like it has, it doesn't have a distributor behind it. It doesn't have an ad agency behind it. It doesn't have a marketing agency behind it. It doesn't have budget behind it. It has nothing apart from me and my MacBook. But make it look like it has all of the above. Yeah. Right, and that's what comes down to. That's what comes down to making the. You know, how many independent creators do you know that make their own GIFs? So do you know what I mean? Right. How I've done that with 61. I've made like GIFs and stuff, which you can do in seconds using Giphy, for God's sake. So I'm thinking, how can I set this apart that it just doesn't look like your standard independent? By the way, I'm incredibly proud of it being a standard independent short film that has no budget. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
But I know that for influential people who might want to talk about it, they don't care. No. They want something that looks slightly more meaty, right? To a point. At least, as you just said, catch their eye.
Exactly.
At the very least, right? You know, amongst a busy feed.
Stop the finger from going.
Correct. You know? That's why if you look at all my feeds, they're hideously obnoxious. Like, they look great, but they're flashy, right? They're flashy. There's lots of stuff going on in them, so that in a busy feed, at least it will jump out at someone. So just give yourself the best chance. That's all I do. Just give myself the best chance. So what you're saying makes absolute truth. But you also said something yesterday which was beautiful as well, and that was my friend who said, "CK, move on." That could be coming from a good place of someone that's just discovered you and can't wait for the next thing.
Exactly.
That's what you want to share that again while I set up my phone?
So basically, you have fans. So if you think about musical bands, I can't believe I said musical bands. Bands, right? You know, your music artists and all that. Like, you know, your just name your favorite band.
Jezebels of Australia. But
there you go.
That's
so
just the people.
You come across them, you love their songs, and you've been playing them, and you play them, and you play them, and you love that sound. So now you want to know, when's the next album? When's the next song coming out? I want to hear something new from these guys. I know I like them already. I want to hear something new.
And yes, I agree. And this is the thing, because I'm exactly the same. Susie, I discover a band, a creator, a writer online, and all of a sudden I'm gouging on their backs. I'm gouging out on their previous productions. In the music analogy, I'm gouging on all their previous albums that preceded the one I now love, right? Or in the case of an artist, I'm just going through their YouTube channel and gouging out on that. And that's happened with me. I feel so grateful that people that have discovered 61 have retrospectively gone back and said, oh my God, I just watched that video 2 years ago, blah, 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 blah. So I wholeheartedly agree that that people will be asking that, not from a place of malice or a place of enough already. There'll be some of that, but mostly it's because they're excited about the next thing, because I felt such an affinity for 61, right? So they're excited about the next thing. And all I would say is, I promise you won't be disappointed. Just trust me.
Well, I could see even the people in our film festival that you met. Let's talk just 5 minutes about the film festival, because I know that we're gonna lose our time.
Sure.
But the people in our film festival, they saw your film, they know you now. A lot of them connected with you on social media and things like that weren't before. Me too. And now it's like they're going to be looking at your feed. They're going to be looking for your plugins, and they're going to go, what's coming up next, right? And so speak a little bit about, what the film festival was like for you, because I know everybody has a different perception before they get there, when they've never been there before. And even if they've been there before, it's always new. It exceeded my expectations, and I put it together, for God's sake.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
What were your thoughts or perceptions or experience or whatever?
2 things. So first of all, the International Mobile Film Festival took place in a remarkable location, Marina Village.
Yeah.
And it was just perfect for me. It was just something about walking around that little complex, so many trees, and it was just like it was like an actual residential village, but it wasn't. It was a commercial village. There's office spaces. You book out the rooms for whatever functions.
It's set up for photographs, really.
Right.
Because some people get married there and things like
Correct.
that. So
there was at least 4 during 4
Yeah.
weddings during the 2 days, and there's the marina, of course, with yachts, boats. So the venue, I was like, wow, it feels like I'm home. Oh, man, I don't know why, because there's none of that in Sheffield. I think maybe spiritual home. So the location was spectacular. But then on the Friday, the gathering of all the filmmakers, when we just hung out and had some drinks and got to know each other, that was a masterstroke. And I know that's not the first time you've done it, Susie. That's your tradition,
this is
right?
my third time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, and it's wonderful because it means we actually entered the film festival feeling like we've got buds, right? Like we've got friends.
That's the whole point.
And we know a little bit about each other's backstory and now story and film and all that business. And so much. It's a masterstroke. It really is. And you won't mind me saying that most of us forgot it was actually happening. I know I did. I forgot the Friday was happening. So you tweeted me a DM. CK, see you tomorrow.
Well, and that's my thing too. It's like, we're having a get together where people are that's why it's called meet and greet.
Yeah.
But the whole purpose behind that is that people are connected. So when you go to the film festival for those 2 days, because it's only 2 days, it's that weekend, all that time gap of people having to get to know each other and connecting, especially during programs and things like that, the meet and greet is where people really connect. And then that just, during the festival is like
continues through, and suddenly, this is the thing. And even if I use my example, you'll be able to speak to this as well. But this is just what I observed. By the time it came to Sunday afternoon, my film was screened at 3 p.m. It was almost like I felt a lot of effect, weirdly, like for the 2 days, like I felt like I was getting on with people getting on with me, people liked me, I liked people, so I felt like we just bonded. So all of a sudden, it's like people are invested in 61 Hugs, even though I've got no idea what this damn thing is. And this is how I felt about Madhouse, for example. I was invested in Madhouse. Same with Steve's film. So like, because all of a sudden these people have kind of grown to think, oh, CK's not a jerk from the UK. CK's cool.
Because I'm always inviting jerks from the UK.
It's
you have that personal connection in that, and just so you know, I did send out, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I do send out emails regularly to the filmmakers that are coming and things like that, and I remind them, this is not your typical film festival. This isn't the film festival where you come for the screening and then you leave and then you come back for the awards. It's not about that. It's about the connecting and making friends and relationships and things like that, and you're just don't plan to leave because you're going to figure out you don't want to. Yeah. And there were some people that were saying, well, we're going to leave anyways, and they never left.
Oh.
You know, because they wanted to be,
That's
where they wanted to be. And
they were
going to
leave when? After their screen had filmed?
Yeah.
After their film was screened?
Yeah. They did,
okay.
you know, everything else was like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But they stayed. Why? Because there was that human factor.
That's interesting.
You know?
I find it interesting that they even told you, well, I understand why I respect that, but I'm leaving anyway.
Yeah, well, they did, because they were saying, you know, we've never been outside of wherever they live, or
I want to see the place. I want to see San Diego.
I'm only got a weekend there, and I want to go to the zoo. I want to go here, and I want to go there.
Interesting.
And, and that happens, and that makes a lot of sense, you know. But you know, they stayed. They stayed. They didn't have to go far. That's anyways, and there was a lot of, like you said, a lot of beauty around them.
That really helped. And so, you know, I don't know, it was this weird thing whereby, I don't know, maybe, you know, when I saw Kim and Ross go up to collect their winning feature award, I just felt this weird sense of pride.
Right?
It was odd.
It was like family,
for people I've known for like just under 48 hours.
The Ukraine family, when because I gave all the filmmakers certificates, you know, of appreciation. And the little girl from the Ukraine family, she was jumping up and down because her father got to go up there and get something and speak. And she was like jumping up and down for him when he was coming back. I saw her, and it was so touching. She was like, "You're the winner. You won." You know, I mean, she was so excited for him.
Yes.
You know, and that moment for me meant a lot, because I don't want people to feel like if you don't win, you lose. That's so negative. It's like everybody comes out with something.
Sure.
You know, so feeling appreciated. We're gonna have to call it a go. Would you do me a favor and give a shout out to our sponsors?
Oh, of course I will. Why would you like me to do that?
Because I can't do they're each right over here.
You can't do what?
I can't do the English accent like you can.
Okay, well, listen. I would like to thank the following brands and partners and sponsors for supporting the 10th, right?
The 10th year, but the 8th edition.
I've been wanting to ask you the difference, actually.
Oh, well, then I should go ahead and
Please
tell
do.
everybody. So it's 10 years since I launched it.
Oh, were the first 2 years online?
Right.
Got it.
Well, no. The first 2 years, hardly anyone submitted.
Oh.
Because it was like an idea. And so now you have to get people to believe it enough to invest in making films on their phone.
So does that mean the first 2 years, although you were
I was pushing it.
No film festival manifested due to the lack of submissions?
Yeah, and also venue.
Okay.
You know, it was hard to find a venue when you're non-established.
I mean, with that in mind then, congratulations for if we go back to the vinyl, Tenacity. It's like 2 years, most people would have called it a day.
Yeah, if you would, and sometimes I'll say that on my social media. For those of you who remember when I first started this, and they're like, yeah, you just never stopped. It was like, is she ever going to give up on this? No.
When's the next
she's
thing?
Still going.
Jesus.
And there are people that say, we watch, we're seeing what they'll message me randomly and say that.
That's interesting. Right.
It is. It's kind of scary though. It's like, what do you mean you're stalking me? No.
So on behalf of the International Mobile Film Festival, I would like to thank the sponsors, whom were Red Giant. I mean, this is when I'm going to have to make everything huge because I've got terrible eyesight. Also, Swords and
Circuitry.
Circuitry Studios. Swords and Circuitry Studios.
That was Neil and Jana Hofford.
I would also like to thank the Indiana Filmmakers Network, IFN, for those of you who enjoy an acronym. That was Nathan.
Nathan Bechtold.
Who I feel... say that name again.
Bechtold.
I think I'd be remiss to not mention Nathan. You were an absolute superstar that day. Honestly, your engagement during the Q&As was joyous. Thank you on behalf of all the filmmakers. Black Box Global.
Yes.
The Hall H Show.
Podcast.
It is a podcast, which I had the absolute joy of being on recently. Thank you, Aaron. Film Convert.
Yes, they do color grading and grain.
Star Wars Steampunk Universe.
That was Dude Vader, Hot Nerd Girl, and the gang.
That was one crazy-ass red carpet.
That was the best red carpet ever. Just stay tuned, everybody.
Have you got footage coming? You have footage coming?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Aaron was there with his selfie stick.
Yes, he was.
You know.
We have some great footage of that red carpet. So thank you to Star Wars Steampunk Universe. And finally, but in no ways leastly, Grip and Shoot.
Yep. Thank you. And I also want to go ahead and give a big thank you to everybody that came, including judges and some of the sponsors that showed up, and our new partner at Free Vision Tech with the gimbals. I think that's it, huh?
Can I give a 30-second challenge to creators out there?
Yes, I would love you to do that.
This is what I'd like all creators that have listened to this to do. This is something I learned. For those of you who feel icky and, okay, I know for a fact someone is listening to this and is now thinking, yeah, actually recently, possibly this week, I was going to post something and I thought, no, I've done this too much. I know for a fact someone's listening to this right now and is thinking, yeah, I've done that this week. I was going to post on Twitter, but I thought, no, I've done it too much. This is what I want you to do. I want you to spend the next 7 days tackling that, no, I can't, it's too much. Just spend 7 days doing it. That might even be 1 tweet a day. It could be 2 tweets, whatever. Just kind of get to that point when it feels like you've done too much and just send it anyway. Do it for 7 days solid and then tell me how it feels after 7 days. Is it now easier? Because that's what happened to me. I had to push through this barrier and it was really hard. Then it just actually got easier. I didn't care because I started to see traction. I started to see people discovering it and watching it and writing about it in their blog or in their news, but whatever. And I would have never discovered that had I not gone through that icky period. So anybody listening to this, I want you to spend 7 days. It has to be 7 days back to back, though. Otherwise you'll kind of not feel the benefit. But tell me if it gets easier. And that can be on anything. It can be on Twitter. It can be on Facebook. It can be on Instagram, wherever you feel most comfortable. Just talk about your art for 7 days solid.
Or all 3 or 4 or whatever.
I mean, I did.
Yeah, right?
I did. Yeah.
I may take you up on that challenge myself.
I just want all creators to just create art and then
because nobody else is going to do it.
There you go.
It's not like a company where you have a whole team doing it for you, and you can say, "Oh, those guys," you know.
Exactly.
When you go to dinner with your friends, well, Fred, you're always pushing your vacuum cleaners or whatever it is. Oh, it's those marketing guys. But for creators, it's them.
I would love to have a machine behind me that would just enable me to focus on the creation, right?
I would too, but it would take your personal self out of that. It would
to a point, but what I mean is I would still be doing that, but if I could maybe have support and assistance.
I know what you mean, though.
I would delight in having a machine behind me, but right now, and it's a shame we've not had an opportunity to talk about what I loved talking about with you yesterday, which was screwing up in private. Maybe that's one, because that was so critical, but we can do that another time. But, while I'm an independent creator with no machine behind me, as you just said, who else is going to do it?
Yeah, it's true. Thank you.
Thank you. It was an absolute joy.
Say goodbye, everybody.
I'm going to go and eat tacos.
That's right. We're going to Old Town. See you guys.